After receiving numerous criticisms and suggestions from netizens, I decided to lower my criteria a bit for choosing a partner. There are still 4 conditions. First, I have a master's degree, and I'm willing to accept someone with a bachelor's degree. Second, I live in Zhejiang, and I own 2 houses, but I'm open to someone who has 1 house within Zhejiang province. Just the down payment is enough. No requirements for a car. Third, I would like a dowry of 50,000 yuan. I'll return 60,000 as my dowry. We can use this total of 110,000 as a fund for our future children. Fourth, I'm 1.58 m tall, and I'm willing to accept someone who is 1.72 m. These 4 conditions are the minimum. If I have to lower them any further, I'd rather stop looking and become a nun at Hanshan Temple.
Today, I want to talk with you about the topic of older single women still wanting to find a Prince Charming. As a 34-year-old single woman, I'm often asked, at your age, why are you still so picky? Honestly, every time I hear that, I feel really frustrated. I want to say that I'm not being overly demanding. I'd like to ask everyone, is it wrong to want a better life and to not settle for just anyone? Is it wrong to want a partner with good qualities? People say, men in their 40s are like blossoming flowers, but why, when women reach this age, are we expected to lower our standards and settle with just anyone? When I talk about an ideal partner, I'm not just talking about material aspects. What I truly want is someone I'm compatible with, who helps me grow without holding each other back. I desire an emotional connection, not just someone who's superficially tall, rich, and handsome. Think about it. Many women my age have their own careers, are financially independent, and have a wealth of life experience. We single women in this age group know what we want and have a more mature outlook on how to handle relationships. Isn't that an advantage? I believe that age shouldn't be a barrier to pursuing happiness. Whether we're 29 or 39, we have the right to look for the person who's truly right for us. Of course, I understand that reality can be harsh. But instead of yielding and settling, I'd rather face my single status calmly and continue to improve myself. Only when we become excellent ourselves can we truly be a match for someone equally excellent, right? Like attracts like, if we want a person of a certain caliber, we first need to become that kind of person. We shouldn't get married just because we're afraid of being alone. True happiness is built on mutual respect and understanding. So, dear friends, I believe we shouldn't give up our standards because of external pressures. Stay confident, and when we're good enough, the person who truly appreciates us will naturally appear, don't you think?
I went to a blind date at the People's Park. Although I still haven't found someone and don't know exactly what I want, I think I now know what I dislike. This is the introduction I made that day at the park. There were many people at the dating area, far more than I had imagined. When I arrived at the entrance, I thought it might be a commotion or gathering for some other reason, but as I got closer, I saw that everyone was holding a presentation form similar to this one. Did you notice that they were holding documents similar to mine? But in reality, very few people were there for themselves. Most were parents or intermediaries representing their children. Although I only brought this piece of paper, I quickly attracted a lot of attention, and what I didn't expect was that the concerns I had about housing, cars, registration, and the number of family members were not the main issues. What really caused a stir was my requirement regarding the height of the guys. In what I wrote, I specified that I wanted someone over 1.75 m tall and made it clear that I like taller guys. But there was an older man who stood in front of my booth and started telling me, with this height requirement, you will definitely not find someone. If 1.75 m is too high, what about 1.73 m or 1.72 m? You should lower it to 1.70 m. Later, some enthusiastic onlookers said I shouldn't impose such demands on others, claiming that their child clearly didn't meet the 1.75 m height and that I should learn to argue my case. What I want to say here is that if this older man or the parents he represents were facing a potential partner for their children, they could say, my child doesn't meet your standard, but they are good in other ways. Would you consider that? I could probably accept an answer like that instead of making me feel that liking tall guys is a mistake. I think this should be a form of covert pressure. When you're really searching and face these doubts or questions, I still hope for someone who loves me or still believe in love. I hope it's based on love, and I'm particularly wary of potential PUA situations. So, I also hope that if older people genuinely care about young people's dating issues, they need to change the way they communicate. Now, according to the advice of the older gentleman, I've changed my height requirement to 1.80 m or above.
It's a common issue at home. Everyone ends up going on blind dates, ha ha ha. So, at the time, I told my parents that it was fine to do that, as long as I had one condition: the person on the other side had to be a cultured person. Ha ha ha. I don't require him to have a car, a house, or a lot of savings. But I think his character should be good and, in terms of attitude, he should be a bit more artistic, like music, understand art, and also read a bit, so we can converse and at least have something in common in terms of reading. I think this is also an important point. Then, I told my mother about this, and she really started acting on it, ha ha ha. And if there are other aunts and relatives wanting to introduce someone to me? My mother said, my daughter is a bit special. Ha ha ha. What makes her special? She doesn't demand that you come from a good family background, but she asks that you provide her with an office. An office, which is also part of the house, right? Ha ha ha. In fact, I think turning a house in the countryside into an office is a very, very luxurious and also enjoyable thing. My initial idea was not that you needed to buy a house in the city and have an office inside. Of course, that would be ideal, ha ha ha. After all, when your spiritual world is well established, material things are a foundation. But at first, I really didn't think too much and just wanted a place that could accommodate my soul. So that's how it is. Later, those people didn't understand, and I said it's okay that they don't understand, because otherwise, going on blind dates would be tiring, ha ha ha. And I used this point, and you see that it can drive away many people. So, in a small town, many people regarding this spiritual world and the soul still have much less understanding than we do in big cities. Therefore, I think if you can find people who are on the same wavelength, this little requirement might be a great way to filter. Maybe during the blind date process, you can indeed meet people who are on the same wavelength, which is not bad. But unfortunately, the lack of a soulmate is still quite important, especially after spending a long time in first-tier cities. I increasingly feel the value of someone who resonates on a spiritual level. Ha ha ha. Yes.
Many people say that the only way for older single women to find a partner is to lower their standards. I dare to say here that I don't really agree with this statement. At the same time, I dare to propose a new theory, which is that the only way for older single women to find a partner is to recognize their own needs. Let me emphasize, it's not about lowering standards, but about clearly understanding what you want. What does this mean? Let me explain. For example, a woman may have always required her boyfriend to be over 1.80 meters tall and good-looking. However, later on, she finds a boyfriend who is only 1.70 meters tall and not particularly attractive, yet she is quite happy with him. From an outsider's perspective, this might seem like she has lowered her standards. But what is the truth? I believe the truth is that she realized that being 1.80 meters tall and good-looking are not important conditions. Because they are unimportant, they don't matter. Thus, essentially, she didn't lower her standards, she chose not to care about these two conditions. This boyfriend, who is 1.70 meters tall and not particularly good-looking, may have a decent income, be considerate, kind, and attentive. He might be very responsible and have good character. In short, he must have other qualities that this woman considers more important after recognizing her needs, which is why she chose him. Do you all understand what I mean? What I mean by recognizing needs is to understand which conditions are most important for you and which are trivial, thus changing your preferences and learning to appreciate those more significant qualities. The less important conditions do not need to be forced. This is a change that comes from self-awareness, not simply lowering standards. Moreover, this change naturally occurs as a person gains experience and increases their understanding. It is not something that is forced. Many older single women often complain that everyone tells them to lower their standards, but they simply can't. Those who do not meet their criteria just do not attract them. So what can be done when this happens? I really understand them because finding a partner is not like buying a car. If you can't afford a Porsche, you might lower your standards and settle for a Honda. However, when it comes to finding a partner, it's not something you can just adjust in that way. That's why I say that the way for older single women to find a partner is to recognize their needs and sincerely change their partner preferences rather than just lowering their standards. If you lower your requirements, the partner you find will likely not satisfy you, and you won't be happy in the relationship. In the long run, it will only lead to endless problems. By recognizing your needs, you have the chance to encounter a true relationship that brings you happiness. Of course, this shouldn't be something to consider only when you are older. The earlier young women awaken and recognize their needs, the better.
Don't lower your standards to match your partner. Many women, upon entering a relationship, make a dangerous decision. They are often intelligent women who see everything clearly, and sometimes realize that their partner may not quite measure up to them in certain aspects, or even in many ways. But, to make the couple seem more compatible and to spare their partner from feeling out of place or ashamed, they choose to hide their own strengths. Some even go as far as to elevate their partner, creating an illusion of dependency, making him feel special. But ask yourself, can you maintain this act forever? If, over time, your partner doesn't evolve or change at the pace you expected, this sense of sacrifice might start to consume you. If he doesn't change, frustration might lead you to accuse him of things, turning you from a savior into an oppressor. In the end, the biggest conflict in the relationship will be within you, as you created an illusion he never asked for. You built an ivory tower of illusion for him and then shattered that same illusion. However, you always knew who he truly was and what you wanted. The illusion is thinking that by pretending and trying to change the other person, they'll rise up. Deep down, you know there's a mismatch, and your attempt to improve him isn't genuine love, but a hidden dissatisfaction. If the love we feel brings this need for change, perhaps it's not genuine love. Instead of lowering your standards to improve the other person, it's better to let go of the idea of changing them and, instead, influence them, allowing them to grow on their own.
My standard doesn't need to be lowered, it just needs to be compatible. I'm from Puyang in Henan province from the Zhongyuan oil field. I'm 35 years old and have been in Shanghai for over 10 years. I graduated and have been working here ever since. I studied at Jingju University, where I majored in design, specifically environmental and art design. Currently, I work in interior design in Shanghai. My annual income is between 30,000 and 50,000. I'm 1.70 m tall. Recently, I thought about the type of boyfriend or husband I would like to have. For me, it's important that he has a good level of education, as I come from a family of 3 generations of teachers. I hope to find someone of good quality from a good family background, preferably from an educated family. Regarding the age of the girl, I think someone around my age is fine. Right now, I'm not looking for perfection in a partner. In the past, I had the idea that I needed to find a perfect man, but that has changed. I don't think the standards should be lowered, it's more about finding someone who is compatible. In the past, I used to like people who seemed more glamorous and preferred handsome guys, but now looks don't matter as much. When I think about priorities, I place height as an important point. He can't be shorter than me. For me, material issues are also relevant in a marriage. I consider myself middle class, and for the South, I think an annual income of around 600,000 is good. As for having a car and a house, we are still looking for a place to buy here in Shanghai. Regarding my partner's location, I don't have a preference for the city. Any place is fine as long as he is in Shanghai.
Why are the partner selection standards of older single women becoming increasingly higher? This is a relevant topic that attracts attention. Let's explore the reasons behind the rise in these standards. In the past, it was the norm for both men and women to marry upon reaching adulthood. However, this expectation has changed, and marriage is now seen as a transaction. Currently, the partner selection standards among older single women are rising, reflecting a high exchange rate in this transaction. As these women become more valued in the market, they resemble high-flying stocks, difficult for ordinary men to acquire. Just like stocks, which often have bubbles and are risky, these women's expectations can can also be challenging and distant from reality. This dynamic generates intense and often unsustainable comparisons. To illustrate, let me share an adapted story. Liu, a 21-year-old young man, worked as a laborer at a delivery point in Dongguan. He met a 23-year-old girl who worked as a cashier in a cyber cafe and didn't mind his low salary. After dating for a while, she expressed a desire to marry, which surprised Liu, who thought he wasn't ready yet. Fearing that she only wanted to fulfill the task of marrying and having children, he distanced himself. 3 years later, the girl, now 24, was reintroduced to Liu. Both had matured and sat down to talk. She shared her work journey in various fields and expressed her willingness to marry. Liu, now in a more stable job, no longer felt pressured and thought he could marry at 30. However, his standards for choosing a partner had risen, including the expectation of having a house and a car. Another 3 years passed, and Liu encountered the same girl again, who had changed significantly. Now well made up and with a sophisticated look, she revealed that she was ready to marry, but her experiences with men had made her demanding. She was looking for someone with a degree, a height above 1.75 meters, an annual income exceeding 200,000 sous, and who would also respect and take care of her. The expectations were high, and Liu felt he couldn't meet them. At this point, Liu reflected on the changes that older single women are experiencing. They have accumulated experiences and, at the same time, have become more demanding, placing themselves at a level that many men cannot reach. This dynamic is complex. Women seek men who can offer security and stability, while men often feel pressured to meet standards that are beyond their reality. In the current context, where China's economy has surged and urbanization is rapidly advancing, the desire for material goods and comparison of social status have intensified. The scarcity of good men becomes a limited social issue, and many women seeking to improve their conditions believe that marriage is the solution. This creates a vicious cycle where the pressure for high expectations results in discontent and frustration. In the end, what we can see is that older single women, in their search for partners, end up raising their standards. This is reflected in their choices and often in their morality, leading to a situation where the pressure to conform to an ideal can create an environment of competitiveness and dissatisfaction. Therefore, it is evident that the partner selection standards among older single women are becoming increasingly higher. Now, I want to know your thoughts. Do you have any opinions to add to this dilemma? I would love to understand your perspective. If you enjoyed the video, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more similar topics. I'll see you in the next video.